we could begin the housekeeping comments.
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-2432. That's 909-396-2432. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Gracias por participar en la reunión de hoy. Si asiste en persona, favor de no conectarse a la conferencia telefónica o Zoom mientras esté en el auditorio y silencie sus dispositivos. Si traducción es disponible, haga clic en el icono de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla para seleccionar inglés o español. Se tomarán comentarios del público después de cada punto. Si se encuentra en el auditorio y desea dar comentario, utilice los iPads ubicados en el vestíbulo o complete una tarjeta azul según esté disponible. Si necesita ayuda, localice a un empleado de South Coast AQMD. Los comentarios pueden ser limitados a un total de 3 minutos o menos para todos los puntos de la agenda. El tiempo límite puede ser reducido para que todos los comentarios puedan ser escuchados. Se mostrará un temporizador de cuenta regresiva en la pantalla para cada comentario público. Se asignará más tiempo para traducción al español si no es simultáneo. Si tiene preguntas o problemas sobre cómo hacer un comentario público, llame al asesor público al 909-396-2432. 909-396-2432. Respete el tiempo límite y favor de tratar a los demás con cortesía, civilidad y respeto. De lo contrario, es posible que se silencie el micrófono o que sea retirado de la reunión. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión está siendo grabada. Al participar, usted autoriza la grabación de audio y contenido visual presentado durante el evento en vivo y da su consentimiento para el uso de la grabación en el dominio público por parte de South Coast AQMD.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to the Friday, December 5th, 2025 meeting of the South Coast Air Quality Management Governing Board. And we'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Nguyen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor. Roll call, please.
Mayor Locke Dawson.
Here.
Supervisor Hagman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McAllen.
Here.
Supervisor Mitchell is absent. Supervisor Nguyen. Vice Mayor Olmos.
Here.
Board Member Padilla Campos is absent. Supervisor Perez is absent. Councilmember Rahman is absent. Mayor Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chair Cacciati.
Here.
Chair Delgado.
Thank you. Let's go to opening comments. Board members, do you have any opening comments? Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank my board assistant, Deborah Mendelson, for her distinguished service over the years at AQMD. She's done an outstanding job. Really grateful for her time and dedication. She has made a significant impact on just being able to make as informed decisions as possible. And I know that there's others here that have benefited greatly as well from her distinguished service. I wish her and her family a wonderful new beginning in the Lone Star State of Texas, and she always has friends here in Diamond Bar, that's for sure. So thank you.
Mayor, thank you. I remember her many years ago with Supervisor Antonovich in Los Angeles before she worked for you. Great staffer. Any more comments from board members? Supervisor Hagman, I see you.
I'm just doing conflicts. I don't know if it's too early for that.
Not yet, I don't think. Faye, what do you think? It's up to
We
you.
can wait and do the other things first.
Larry, any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Carlos's comments on Deborah. She also served me for a while, and appreciated all of her input, all of her insights, and her long service here at AQMD has definitely provided me with good counsel. And we're going to miss her and wish her family well in Texas.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Dawson?
Hi, yes, thank you. I just wanted to say thanks for pinch hitting. Last time I missed last month's meeting because I was actually attending the climate talks in Brazil. And I have to say, it was very encouraging to me to be among so many people who are just getting the work done. You know, the complaint at past COPs and current COP is that the nations fight, the nations do everything. Everybody wants a Paris Agreement and it never gets done. But the funny thing is, all of the cities that were there, all of the cities and the other subnationals are doing this work. You know, we've just brought our, I think, 7th green transportation company into Riverside in the last month. So we are doing the work at the city level. It's getting done, and regardless of what goes on at the national and the state level, your cities are doing it. So just wanted to say thank you, and glad to be back, and happy holidays to everyone. Thanks.
Supervisor Nguyen?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo about Deborah. I know Deborah didn't, she was not my consultant, but we've learned so much from her working with Board Member Rodriguez, Mayor Rodriguez. And so I do appreciate her and her knowledge, her in-depth knowledge of our issues, and also really helping my consultants and my staff to really understand and learn this last year. And so we appreciate her. And Deborah, wish you and your husband a great retirement, and also want to also thank him for his service to our great nation as well.
Supervisor, and I have some photos. We had a meeting a few weeks ago here, and I'm trying to do an outreach with our faith communities, houses of worship. And I started with the San Gabriel Valley. And this was, the gentleman in the middle is Bishop Brian Nunez, the Bishop of the San Gabriel Pastoral Region, pretty much the 34 cities I represent. On his right is Deacon Bill, who's his assistant and deacon in a Roman Catholic church. There's our great staff right before our tour and visit. Next. So we had a little air quality overview for the Archbishop. It's interesting, you talk about climate change, and I remember Pope Francis, since 2015 in Paris, has complained that not only Catholic Church, but many other churches and groups are not doing anything or having inadequate response. And I realize a lot of the faith communities don't understand, so if we outreach and educate them. So this was our outreach to the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, San Gabriel Pastoral Region, Bishop Nunez and staff. Next. So this was a bishop learning about some of our electric lawn equipment. Next. This was Wayne, myself, the bishop. Our staff was on the other side, reviewing one of our PowerPoint presentations, kind of overview of what AQMD does, sources of pollution, and its effect on our health. Next. And there's Jason and staff explaining about some of our equipment at the laboratory. And next. Is that the final picture? That's one. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes.
Thank you so much for filling in. We're gonna right now take a minute to talk about the life and legacy of Jesse Marquez. And I know we kind of both wanted to say a portions of it, so I'll let the vice chair begin sharing our thoughts about Jesse Marquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We want to take this opportunity to honor Jesse Marquez, passed away November 3rd, 2025, recognizing his dedication and commitment as a strong community advocate and leader. Jesse established a coalition for a safe environment in April 2001 in Wilmington, a proud lifetime Wilmington resident and a tireless advocate for improved community health and safety. Jesse was an original and active member of the AB 617 Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach Community Steering Committee, where he shared with us his community work, elevated local concerns, and played a key role in development and implementation of the Community Emissions Reduction Plan, SERP. Jesse always strived to ensure that residents' voices were heard and respected. He was a leader that fought for protective standards on a wide variety of issues, including refinery operations, oil and gas production, and air toxics. And I'll let the chair continue with his goals.
His goals and vision were always clear. Improve public health for the residents of his and other communities. Jesse's environmental justice work led to the strictest rule for the refinery combustion equipment, Rule 1109.1. Jesse leaves a legacy of courage, integrity, and unrelenting passion for justice for others to follow. His leadership inspired countless others, and his impact will continue to shape Wilmington and neighboring communities for generations to come. Our heartfelt condolences go out to his family, friends, and all who were touched by his remarkable life and work. Jesse Marquez will be remembered not only as an advocate, but a true champion for his community. I would like to take a moment of silence to remember Jesse Marquez and his legacy. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I'll turn it over to Wayne.
Thanks, Chair. Just a few items. As you may know, Governor Newsom appointed Dr. Cedric Jamie Rutland to the governing board. Dr. Rutland is a pulmonary and critical care physician in Orange County. He has many esteemed medical posts, and he's a member of the YouTube Health Creator Council and California Health Workforce Training and Education Council. Unfortunately, he was on travel. He wasn't able to make it today, but we do look forward to seeing him in January. Also, just want to note that for December, our Committee of Mobile, Stationary, and Technology will not be meeting this month, that the next meetings will be held in January. But also want to point out that for January, the board meeting is not on the first Friday, but it's on the second Friday, and that's January 9th. So we'll look forward to seeing you all again in January 9th.
Okay, and then do you want to do the recognition of our employees' years of service?
We could do that. I was going to have John
Oh,
take
yep.
care of that.
Yeah,
John?
John. Welcome, John. Don't want to steal that from you.
Good morning, John Olvera, Deputy Executive Officer for Administrative and Human Resources. Every year we take the time to honor our long-term employees, those who have reached significant milestones in their South Coast AQMD service and who have dedicated their careers to South Coast AQMD's clean air mission. Today, we are recognizing employees who have completed 20, 25, and 35 years of service here at South Coast AQMD, and we have a slide presentation.
It is my pleasure to announce the employees who have reached major milestones in their careers during 2025. Introducing employees who have achieved 20 years of service. Leila Enriquez, Jeremy Graham, Marvin Ignacio, Angela Kim, Michael Koch, Vardan Mickerchin, Tracy Wynn, Marcel Solis, and Sandys Thomas. Introducing employees who have achieved 25 years of service. Kevin Cow, Cindy Hooton, Rhonda Lagason, Ash Nikravan, Bullington Pham, and Richard Rogers. Introducing employees who have achieved 35 years of service. William Brill, Eddie Kwan, Maura Matute Bustamante, Susan Nakamura, Barbara Radline, Pierre Seasip, and Faye Thomas. Please join me in a round of applause for all of these dedicated employees.
It's always amazing to see the longevity. Thank you all for your service, your hard work. All right. So we're going to move to general public comment. We have an active group here today. 31 people have signed up to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Just for the sake of moving towards through the agenda, I'm going to limit comments to 1.5 minutes. If that presents an issue, just let me know and we can work through that. So the list will hopefully go up on screen. And if you could come up, we've got Teresa Chang and Thomas De Castro will be following Teresa. And this is 1.5 minutes for items that are not on the agenda.
Great. Good morning, and thank you so much to members of the board for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Teresa Chang from Industrious Labs. I'm speaking on behalf of the Southern California Clean Manufacturing Coalition today. We've come together to advocate for zero emissions industrial equipment rules. Together, our coalition represents community members across the entire South Coast region, from San Bernardino to Riverside, Los Angeles County, and Orange County. And we're here today at the last board meeting of the year to highlight an opportunity to achieve much needed NOx reductions in 2026 by passing zero emission standards for industrial boilers under Rules 1146 and 1146.1. This is an opportunity to live up to the roadmap laid out in the AQMD and to build on the hard work and leadership of the South Coast staff and the board who passed the nation's first zero emissions small boiler rule last year with Rule 1146.2. We've provided you today with a map that shows these nearly 2,000 industrial boilers burning gas in large industrial sized buildings like manufacturing facilities, hospitals, and universities across the region. Without rules to phase in more efficient zero emissions alternatives, we risk locking in decades of dirty, health-harming pollution. And by modernizing our manufacturing sector with zero emissions heat, we're creating a hub for clean technology investment, fostering high-quality job creation, and ensuring
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tomas Castro. I'm a proud organizer with Climate Action Campaign, and I'm here with many community advocates who are here to say zero emissions, zero excuses. It is no secret that our region has some of the poorest air quality in the nation, and the worst impacts have for decades fallen on communities of color who are expected to live with these impacts without question. Where I'm from, in Orange County, it is oftentimes that schools are located next to the worst polluters, and children end up growing up with asthma and other lung diseases and end up dying prematurely. That's why we're here today. because the people who have contributed least to the climate crisis should not be first in line to suffer its most devastating impacts. This is not the South Coast region we deserve to live in, but it's the kind that some of you up there seem to be content to condemn us to. This year, the board has absolutely failed to deliver life-saving clean air rules for Southern Californians, all at the behest of corporate polluters who put profits over people. Today, we have a message for the board members who are tempted to continue letting our communities suffer. We are tired of inaction. We want zero emissions, zero excuses, and pass clean air industrial rules next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Parks.
Good morning, Chair Delgado and members of the board. My name is Richard Parks. I'm here representing Redeemer Community Partnership in South LA, where I'm a longtime resident. For too long, the Southern California Air Basin has carried the burden of being the most ozone-polluted metro area in the country. But the board has an opportunity to achieve much-needed NOx reductions in 2026 by passing zero-emission standards for Rules 1146 and 1146.1. NOx pollution from the thousands of industrial boilers in our region can lock in decades of dirty air. In my South LA community, we have the largest user of industrial gas boilers. I've been to one of the boiler rooms, and I want you to know that those boilers were manufactured by a company that went out of business in 2002. This is antiquated technology. There has been recently a lot of talk about near zero solutions. You know, if any of us were on a plane and the pilot came over the PA system and announced that he was going to land near the runway, I think we would all be concerned. Nobody wants that. So we have just lived through another year of federal clean air standards non-attainment, a losing streak of 50+ years. We've continued to have the smoggiest air in the country. Zero pollution industrial boilers. Thank you.
Thank you. Joaquin.
Good morning. Good morning, board, staff, and community. My name is Joaquin Castillejos, organizer with CCAJ from the Inland Empire, and I live in Bloomington, California. Recently, we started a air monitoring project, and as I'm seeing the results, I continue to see emission levels higher than the EPA standard over 4 times, and NOx emissions that will put hundreds or thousands of people who live in my community in danger of asthma, of early onset diseases. And I'm here today to ask the board to please pass Rules 1146 and 1146.1 in the next year. My community needs it, and my communities in the Inland Empire need these rules to start making a change to the air that we breathe. It's important for this board to take their job seriously, take this job seriously, and not bow down to any outside pressures, but to listen to the community and to listen to the data and listen to our personal experiences that should tell you that we need these rules now, and we need NOx pollution to lower in our region. We need zero emission standards, and if we don't do it now, our communities will continue to face these impacts for decades to come. Please pass these rules in this upcoming. Please focus on these rules in these upcoming year, and we hope to see it.
Thank you. Kim Orby.
Hi, Kim had an emergency, so I was asked to step in for her. My name is Manjira. I am with the Sierra Club, and I am a resident of San Fernando Valley. As you all know, most of us are disappointed with the success or progress we had last year with the life-changing and life-saving pollution reduction measures that we needed just last year. We needed the year before, but I'm here to ask, at least please do focus on the life-saving measures for the next year. And the success we had on 1146.2 shows that you were on the right path. And please do build on that and focus on a stronger 1146 and 1146.1. These technologies are available today, and these are not things that are technologies that in years in the future, they're available today and they are ready to be implemented. We just need the will of the board. So again, please do focus on this. I want to congratulate everyone and the staff, especially for years of hard work. And thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a good one.
Thank you. DJ, David?
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. Some of you may recognize me. I've been here many times before. I'm an environmental scientist and an educator, clean air advocate, and frankly, we have been very disappointed in the progress in the last couple of years. I've lived in or near Riverside for 40 years. I remember what it was like in the 80s and early 90s. And we made a lot of progress. And we made a lot of progress because this board had the political will to make some hard decisions. I personally haven't seen so much political will lately. So we're asking you basically to turn over a new leaf in 26 and pass some strong rules. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. After our next speaker, we're going to cut off public comment online on general public comment. So if you want to speak during general public comment online, please raise your hand because after this speaker, we're cutting it off. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jesse Parks, and I'm a Master's of Urban Planning student at USC. For far too long, the Southern California Air Basin has carried the burden of being the most ozone polluted metro area in the country. Your board has now the opportunity and the responsibility to do the right thing by advancing the NOx reductions our community urgently need through Rules 1146 and 1146.1. On my campus, industrial boilers release NOx that my classmates and I breathe every day. These emissions settle in our lungs and shape our long-term health. We are already inheriting the consequences of the board's repeated failure to pass life-saving rules. Students like me are doing our part, so we ask, when will you, our governing board, do the same? The momentum is on the side of clean air and our environmental justice. Our communities are watching, and we will no longer accept complacency. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. And I teach at the Price School, so thank you for joining us today. Manuel
Maldonado.
That's what I meant to say.
Good morning, Manuel Maldonado. I am the director of grassroots organization of Tedex Institute. And for this holiday season, we're asking you to put our public health first, committing to rule for zero pollution boilers, zero emissions, zero regrets. As laid out in the 2022 AQMD, we simply cannot achieve our NOx emissions reduction goals required by EPA without passing a zero emission industrial boiler rules. The zero emission technologies needs to industrial heat are not for future promises. They are here now. These technologies offer improved energy efficiency, lower long-term maintenance costs, and increased worker safety. Our communities are very close to an industrial area, which is City of Industry, a very corrupt city that doesn't care about the people in the vicinity. We have a lot of schools that are very close to places that pollute our communities, such as the EcoBat that we've been fighting for more than 30 years to get rid of in our community. And not only that, but we have a lot of old industrial enterprises that are still operating with very highly pollutants in our environmental areas. We are a very highly populated area, La Puente, Belinda, and other adjacent cities in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Tran?
Hello.
Hello, good morning, Chair DeGaldo and members of the board. Thank you for giving me the time to speak today. My name is Ken Tran. I'm an environmental advocate with Sunrise OC based in Orange County, and I'm here to demand South Coast AQMD pass stronger industrial decarbonization rules 1146 and 1146.1. As a frontline community volunteer, I notice our communities of color are born into a world where their zip code determines their life expectancy. There are many statistics of communities with high versus low concentration of boilers, and they lose an average of a couple of years of their life for just being born into the wrong neighborhood. I've talked to many of these residents, and I heard stories of asthma running in their family, and even one person who had their mom pass away from cancer from living these air. I believe it is such an injustice to expose our Californian children, elders, workers to these polluting gases who may live their whole life not knowing the dangers of these pollutants. I believe it's in California's best interest to lead the environmental effort in an environmentally unfriendly administration. We need to show that California that we can pass this example for the rest of the country. For this holiday season, we're asking you to put our public health first by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers, zero emissions, zero regrets. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Samuel?
Samuel, thank you. Good morning to all board members. My name is Samuel Herrera, and I'm a graduate student at California State University, Long Beach, studying climate sciences. And I'm here to demand that the South Coast AQMD pass strong industrial carbonization rules 1146 and 1146.1. Current climate projections estimate that global temperatures will rise by 7 degrees by the close of the century. That rise is anticipated to come to a reality much sooner in areas that have higher emission rates, such as the South Coast. The mission statement of the South Coast AQMD is to clean the air and protect the health of all residents in the South Coast Air District. Despite all board members standing under this statement, this resolution remains to be a divided issue. Educational institutions represent 10% of the industrial emissions in our region, and we expect our elected officials to act to protect the public health of young people. This comment acts as a reminder that this is an issue that pertains to everyone, including students and the youth. We need the South Coast AQMD to show real leadership and pass rules that incentivize the transition to clean energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samuel. Alex?
Thank you, board members. My name is Alex Banach. I am a student at Pomona College, and I am here to demand that the board pass zero emission standards for rules 1146 and 1146.1. As my colleagues have mentioned, the Southern California Air Basin has carried the burden of being the most ozone polluted metro area in the country for far too long. And as a student at Pomona College, I've seen the ways in which this impacts not only young people, but communities across the Inland Empire. My campus relies on industrial boilers, and I've seen the ways in which my classmates, my peers, and my friends have had health effects develop negatively because of this. We are also the generation that will inherit the consequences of inaction, being poised to take in a climate threat that at this point has gotten almost unmanageable. But this opportunity here provides a tangible path forward to reduce NOx reductions and prioritize health, learning environment, and our future. We also know that this is an issue of justice and equity, as low-income communities of color are the communities that are often put at most risk and feel the most effects of pollution. I've seen this not only here, but in my home of Washington, D.C., across the country. I hope for Southern California and South Coast's sake that we are able to pass these rules and pass zero emission standards for rules 1146 and 1146.1. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nisa?
Hello, AQMD board members. My name is Naisa Jain, and I'm currently an undergraduate student at university. I'm here to urge you to pass strong zero emission rules for industrial boilers, rules 1146 and 1146.1 by 2026. As an advocacy intern in the Environmental Student Assembly and a member of the Student Sustainability Committee, I urge you to take action. Zero emission heat technologies are not far off promises. They exist today. They are more efficient, safer, and reduce the long-term costs. Our campuses are already planning to electrify boilers as a part of our climate commitments. What we need is for AQMD to match those promises and set a clear mandatory timeline for zero emission equipment. For this holiday season, we're asking you to put public health first. Zero emission boilers mean zero pollution and zero regrets. Please strengthen rules 1146 and 1146.1 with a definitive path to zero emissions. We implore you to take decisive action in 2026 and pass rules to incentivize green energy transition to ensure a cleaner, healthier future for every community in this basin. Thank you.
Thank you. Clarissa?
Hello, AQMD board members. My name is Clarissa Aquino. I am a student at Pitzer College as well as a resident of Riverside, and I believe that you, our representatives, care about our well-being and health. That means making sure that we have clean air to breathe and a sustainable, just future to look forward to. Educational institutions account for 10% of industrial emissions in our region, not to mention the emissions that come from hospitals, hotels, manufacturing facilities, and more. Trust me when I say that students are very aware of the climate crisis and how air pollution affects our health and our community's health. We check the air quality index. We notice when the air and sky seems smoggier than usual, and we notice when it becomes harder to breathe and harder to see our beautiful mountains due to bad air quality. And it makes us worry for our health and our future. But it also makes us mad that this is our reality. But you can help to change that by passing strong industrial decarbonization rules, such as Rules 1146 and 1146.1. We can safeguard public health. Students are on the side of clean air and justice. We and the 17 million residents of Southern California are counting on this board to be the bold, visionary leaders we know you can be. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mariel? Followed by Miranda.
Hello, my name is Marielle Schuler, and I believe our greatest asset is our attention. I have had the privilege to attend Scripps College, in Claremont, California, where I study environmental science. Here, I have given my attention to scholars who articulate how health and the livelihoods of millions of folks living in Southern California are being discounted by corporate greed. The construction of highways and warehouses, for example. As board members, you have the opportunity to achieve much needed NOx reductions in 2026, which is essential for the health of our community. By passing zero emission standards for rules 1146 and 1146.1. As someone who cares deeply about the greater Los Angeles community, I believe it is the absolute priority that you give us all your attention, and I really appreciate you hearing me out today. Thank you.
Thank you. Miranda?
Hello, board members. My name is Miranda Elder, and I am a student at Pomona College. And like my peers, I'm here to urge the AQMD board to agendize and pass Industrial Decarbonization Rules 1146 and 1146.1. Do not bend to the will of the oil and gas industries, which value profit over health and safety, and instead fulfill your duty of protecting infants, children, people with asthma, people with lung diseases, and seniors, and everyone else whose long-term health is put at risk by pollutants released by industrial boilers. As an environmental advocate who recognizes the necessity of electrification for lowering greenhouse gas emissions and fighting climate change in general, and also as a social advocate who recognizes that clean air issues hit disadvantaged communities of color the most, I demand that you do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee?
Hello, my name is Leah Glasser, and I am a student at Pitzer College. I am here to ask that you pass Rules 1146 and 1146.1, which would regulate industrial gas boilers. Here in Southern California, we are already experiencing the impacts of climate change, such as heat waves, extreme drought, and wildfires caused by the burning of fossil fuels. We should be doing everything we can to move away from our reliance on gas towards renewable energy sources. Considering local issues, these boilers release harmful pollutants into the air that cause high rates of asthma, cancer, heart disease, and early death. I urge you to think about your friends, your family, and yourself. Each and every one of you know someone who has been impacted by these health issues. By voting in favor of these regulations, you could be a part of the movement towards a healthier future. We all breathe this air every single day. You have the ability to ensure a tomorrow with cleaner air for your children. Do so now by passing Rules 1146 and 1146.1. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Garcia?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Garcia, and I'm with Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles, also known as PSRLA.
but I'm also a resident from Southeast LA, and today I ask you all to urgently and thoughtfully enact bold policies that will both reduce our region's contribution to air pollution and prioritize frontline communities. We are most impacted by pollution, and adopting zero-emission technologies, as well as regulating through Rule 1146 and 1146.1, will help mitigate some of the NOx emissions and other emissions in our communities. These technologies offer improved energy efficiency, lower long-term maintenance cost, and increased worker safety. But most of all, they protect the health of our communities, and I ask you all to please protect the health of our communities today. Thank you.
Thank you. Marky?
Good morning, members of the AQMD board. My name is Margie Hills, and I represent the Sierra Club. I want to thank you for all the work you've done to clean up the air in Southern California. For far too long, the Southern California air basin has been the most ozone polluted metro area in the country. The board has the opportunity to achieve much needed NOx reductions in 2026 by passing zero emission standards for the thousands of industrial boilers in our region that contribute to dirty air. I wish you all a happy holiday and a happy new year of clean air. Thank you.
Thank you. Tatiana Flores?
Hello, members of the board. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Tatiana Flores, and I'm from Moreno Valley in Riverside County. And I am an organizer with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. My community, like many others in the Inland Empire, is a Cal Enviro Screen disadvantaged community with high concentrations of exposures such as ozone and PM 2.5. At a summit that we held recently in November, Assemblymember Corey Jackson and Riverside County District 1 Supervisor Jose Medina recounted stories of when they were students or educators and either they or their students could not go outside during recess due to poor air quality. This is still a reality for many students and families today in the region, despite the many years that have passed. The Southern California air basin has long carried the burden of being the most ozone polluted metropolitan area in the country. The board has an opportunity to achieve nitrogen oxide reductions in 2026 by passing zero emission standards for rules 1146 and 1146.1. By modernizing our manufacturing sector with zero emission heat, we are also prioritizing the health of residents and also creating a hub for clean technology investment, fostering high job creation, and ensuring the long-term economic resilience of the region. Therefore, for this holiday season,
Thank you. Heaven?
Hello, AQMD board members. My name is Heaven. I'm a third-year PhD student in environmental science at UC Riverside. I'm also a member of YLAC, the Young Leaders Advisory Council here at South Coast AQMD. And last year, I even participated in the governing board internship here at South Coast. I'm even involved with air quality research and greenhouse gas emissions research with support from the California Air Resources Board and South Coast. But today I come here as a student and community member affected by air quality. I'm calling on everyone to support stricter industrial decarbonization rules 1146 and 1146.1. It is vital everyone here recognize the power stronger rules will have on reducing industrial emissions in our region. And it's important for me as a student of UCR to show that students care, not just by me being here, but telling everyone that the UCR student government just last week passed a resolution in support of this rule, but it's ultimately AQMD's power to implement these strong regulations. So do not capitulate to the gas industry and do not let people who don't live in these polluted communities tell you what's too strict, and do not let anyone driven by denial of science to bully you. Industrial boilers contribute to climate change and dangerous air pollution, so the path is clear. Incentivize clean energy transitions, decarbonize industrial boilers now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anthony?
Hello, board members. I'm Anthony Agama with the Climate Action Campaign in Orange County, and we're working to reduce dangerous gas emissions in our homes, but all that vital work is overshadowed if the board continues to condemn our communities to breathe toxic air. This is an issue of moral failure and environmental apartheid. If we look at Santa Ana, an industrial boiler stands right near Civic and Flower, less than half a mile away from Santa Ana High School, a campus that is composed of 95% Latino students, and less than a mile away from Willard Elementary, where 87% of students are economically disadvantaged. Children are forced to inhale this toxic air that causes asthma, respiratory disease, heart conditions, and premature death. If you choose to protect corporate profits over the lives of these children, you are aiding in their asthma hospitalizations with a shortened life these boilers cause. Let's start by solving the air crisis now by strengthening Rules 1146 and 1146.1 with a clear, mandatory path to zero emissions equipment. Put our public health first, our community's public health first, by committing to zero pollution boilers. Remember, zero emissions, zero regrets. Thank you.
Thank you. Ebony Guerrero?
Good morning, board members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Ebony Guerrero, and I'm a college student. This holiday season, I want to be with my family and friends, knowing that AQMD is protecting us from air pollution released by industrial boilers. I should feel safe at my school when I'm chasing my dreams. I should feel safe living by a hospital, but I know I'm not safe as long as there are no zero emission standards for industrial boilers, which Rules 1146 and 1146.1 are meant to do. So for this holiday season, I'm asking you to put our public health first by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers. Thank you.
Thank you. Obed Leon?
Good morning. First of all, I wanted to thank the board members and staff for everything you guys do. My name is Obed Leon. I'm a student at Fullerton College. Growing up in Southern California, bad air has always been normal, but it should not be. Our regions has some of the worst ozone pollution in the country, and a big part of that comes from industrial boilers that keep operating the same way that always have. Something many people do not realize is that schools use boilers that release NOx. That means even inside our classrooms where we're supposed to learn, feel safe, we're still breathing polluted air. Students spend hours every day in these buildings. That constant exposure affects our health more than most people think. As students, we're the ones walking across campus, practicing sports, sitting in classrooms, breathing this air every single day. And we are the generation that will deal with the long-term consequences if nothing changes. This is why I'm asking you to support strong zero emission standard for rules 1146 and 1146.1. Clean boiler technology already exists, and choosing cleaner options now will prevent decades of additional pollution in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sabna? I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce.
That's correct. Hello, AQMD board members. My name is Sapna, and I'm a PhD student in nutrition in the San Bernardino County. I urge your agency to adopt industrial decarb rules 1146 and 1146.1 next year. The Inland Empire consistently ranks among the worst regions in the nation for ozone and particulate pollution. And our geography creates a pollution bowl that traps emissions, making residents especially vulnerable. And as a dietitian who has worked in local hospitals, I've seen how poor air quality increases emergency hospital visits and healthcare costs. Pollutants like particulate matter, ozone, nitrogen dioxide significantly raise the risk of heart and lung disease. And so by adopting these rules, the agency could prevent over 2 million asthma attacks between 2030 and 2050, save thousands of lives, and avoid about $48 billion in healthcare costs. So as a public health professional and PhD student, we need the South Coast AQMD to accelerate the clean energy transition, and I urge you to please pass strong rules 1146 and 1146.1. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd love to hear you pronounce your name.
Ein.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, board members. Ayn Creation with Climate Action Campaign in Orange County in Southern California, speaking on behalf of the estimated 1,341 families who will lose a loved one to air pollution this year. We know that nitrogen oxides, or NOx, from gas-fired boilers, furnaces, and water heaters threaten the health of thousands of families, especially in communities of concern and especially for women, pregnant people, and children. Studies show that prenatal NOx exposure is linked to adverse birth outcomes, and childhood exposure dramatically increases the risk of asthma and long-term lung damage. And of course, according to the American Lung Association, ozone pollution here in SoCal is worse than any other city in the country, worse than Fresno, Bakersfield, Detroit, Houston, you name a city in the US, and our air is worse than theirs. So we are here today to call on you to maintain the South Coast historic leadership, and we know that you can lead. And as we head into the winter season, we urge you to adopt strong zero-emission rules for the industrial sector, move to require zero pollution boilers, and stop allowing prehistoric fossil fuel combustion in our neighborhoods. Please put people first by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers, zero emissions, zero regrets. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we already had Ebony speak, so Ashley Jackson.
Good morning, board members and Chair Delgado. Thank you for having me. My name is Ashley Jackson, and I'm with California Environmental Voters. I am the Inland Empire Regional Organizer. And the Inland Empire has the worst air quality in the country. And we need to have the strongest rules possible to have a pathway to zero emission heat through rules 1146 and 1146.1. Industrial boilers lock in decades of NOx emissions, harming frontline communities, many of them CalEnviroscreen disadvantaged neighborhoods, and undermining our ability to meet health-based air standards. Zero-emission technologies already exist today. They improve efficiency, they reduce maintenance costs, they protect our workers, and eliminate the dangerous pollutants that drive asthma, heart conditions, and premature death. At the same time, I also want to echo my organization's concerns about the proposed revisions to the board committees and advisory groups. We actually submitted a comment letter yesterday to y'all. Dissolving the Environmental Justice Advisory Group without replacement would further erode public trust and leave major gaps in community expertise, especially after EJ communities were excluded from the port's MOU process. We urge you to commit to zero pollution boiler rules and to maintain stronger EJ advisory structures. Our region deserves action, not appeasement to corporate polluters. Please do not trade community health for political comfort. For this holiday season, we're asking you to put our public health first by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers and zero emissions, zero.
Thank you. Nancy Lamb.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Lamb, and I represent Redeemer Community Partnership, a community organization in South LA. My community in South LA is a CalEnviroscreen disadvantaged community with a high concentration of facilities burning gas in these boilers. But strengthening rules 1146 and 1146.1 to mandate zero emission heat and NOx reductions are the most powerful preventative medicine this board can prescribe. It can improve lung health and reduce cardiac risk for the communities that you serve. In the absence of protective action from regulatory agencies, our communities have had to rely on ourselves to put our bodies on the line by showing up on bad air quality days to protest in the hopes of keeping our communities safe, in the hopes that commissioners like you will listen. The decision before you is simple. Will you continue to allow the health of our children, elders, and workers, predominantly communities of color, to be sacrificed? For this holiday season, we're asking you to partner with those of us who live on the front lines of environmental injustice, and work to put our public health over public wealth by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers. Zero emissions, zero regrets. Thank you.
Thank you. Marvin?
Morning, Chair and members of the board and members of the public. Marvin Norman with CCAJ and San Bernardino resident. Also here to echo the message that many have been bringing that you guys started good work on 1146.2 in last year, and so we're hoping to see it continue. I know a lot of people have told me over the years that hey, why are you guys complaining? The air is clear now. It was dirty when I was your age, and we couldn't even see the mountains. I know I've heard some people tell me that they would have contest with their friends about their mountains in the hills over there, and they would always win the bet come October when the air cleared it up. So we know it can be done, that we can clear the air. The air is clear today, thankfully, more so than usual. So it's good to see that. And so we want more air. We want more days like this. And so continuing these rules is part of that. Southern California, even through that time, has remained, we're still the #1 manufacturing location in the entire country, even bigger than any other state. And so we can continue that. We've done that even while cleaning up the air from what it was in the past, and we continue to do that. We can continue to set leadership, and with these rules that hopefully you guys will pass, we would be able to continue that leadership and show that it can be done. And so in the new year, and we hopefully we get good, not just good cheer, but also good air. Thank you.
Thank you. Whitney?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Whitney Amaya. I am a resident of West Long Beach, a community member with East Side Communities for Environmental Justice, and I help to support the Trade, Health, Environment Impact Project Coalition. So I'm going to touch on a few different items. I mentioned the Trade, Health, Environment Impact Projects Coalition, and I just want to appreciate you all honoring Jesse Marquez earlier this morning. He helped to co-found that coalition. As well as Safase, as you mentioned. And I did also just want to take the opportunity to invite you to go beyond just, words, a moment of silence, and to truly reflect on his legacy and embody that as you come and show up in this agency and ensuring that you are protecting the health of our communities. And with that, I also have recently learned that there is a proposal to eliminate the Environmental Justice Advisory Group and the Climate Change Committee, and I really want you to reconsider. I know that there are challenges, and the answer isn't just eliminate, but how do you troubleshoot and ensure that these spaces continue to exist within the air quality management district so that our communities can continue to show up? The answer isn't eliminate. That feels like silencing our communities. And yeah, there's not time to do that. We have to continue listening to our communities and responding to the very real concerns that we experience, as we've heard from many today. And so with that, just the last thing I want to say is that I definitely want to make sure that you all take on this opportunity.
Thank you. Vanessa Rivas, Villanueva?
Good morning. I'm Vanessa Rivas Villanueva with Earth Justice, and we're also part of the SoCal Clean Manufacturing Coalition. I want to start by acknowledging Jesse Marquez and his legacy in improving the well-being of millions. As you mentioned, his tenacity and love for this region inspire generations to push for the right to clean air. I also want to acknowledge the staff who were recognized this morning. Thank you for your commitment in advancing life-saving rules. 2025 has been very challenging. We started off with the deadly fires, and I recognize that the Air District had additional work in addressing an unprecedented crisis. In addition to the fires, our communities have been terrorized by racist, violent, dangerous kidnappings for months. Making matters worse, our region continues to earn the first place trophy for the smoggiest region in the country. All this to say, the health and well-being of our loved ones is what keeps us making commitment to come back to this agency. Otherwise, not many of us would be willing to show up on early Friday mornings and be stuck in traffic to get here. We're still in the working group phase, but we are here today to introduce you to an opportunity. As you make New Year's resolutions for 2026, I urge you to include passing zero emission standards for industrial boilers in your goals for the upcoming year. The Air District missed some major opportunities.
Thank you. Our final speaker here is Luis.
Good morning, members of the board, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Luis Carretero, and I am a resident of the city of San Bernardino, as well as an environmental justice ambassador with CCAEJ. Today, I'm here to remind the board that the board has an opportunity to achieve the much-needed NOx reductions in 2026 by passing zero emission standards for rules 1146 and 1146.1. where NOx pollution from thousands of industrial boilers in our region can lock in decades of dirty air. However, by strengthening the rules to mandate zero emission heat, we have the most powerful preventative medicine this board can prescribe. It can improve lung health and reduce cardiac risk for the communities you serve. So the decision before you is simple. Will you continue to allow the health of our children, elders, and workers, predominantly communities of color, to be sacrificed? No, because zero emissions is the only path to equity. So my call to action for you all is, let us modernize California's manufacturing sector, create greener jobs, and ensure economic resilience, all while safeguarding public health. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to online testimony by the speakers. You have 1.5 minutes. Danielle Marie Miller, our first speaker. Welcome, Danielle. Go ahead.
Good morning, board members. My name is Danielle Miller. I'm a student at UC Irvine studying environmental science. I'm here to demand that the South Coast Air Quality Management District pass strong industrial decarbonization rules 1146 and 1146.1 in 2026. Educational institutes represent 10% of the industrial emissions in our region. As someone who struggles with compromised health and I've spent a lot of money in health bills, passing these rules can recuperate $47.5 billion in healthcare costs, helping so many compromised students who struggle with asthma and other health concerns as a result of these NOx emissions. We need the South Coast Air Quality Management District to pass this bill and show your commitment to our health and our well-being. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Danielle. Next is Thurl. Welcome, Thurl. Thurl, you're muted.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning, and I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. And the rules 1146 and 1146.1 are very crucial to the overall well-being of the South Coast Air District Basin. Also, I would like to thank you for recognizing my longtime friend, Jesse Marquez. It is hard for me to still get by or past his leaving us. But at the same time, the work must go on. We must work for a cleaner environment here in the South Coast Air Quality District. And within that scope, based on the whole comments that everybody has given so far this morning, Environmental Justice Committee, this is not a time to eliminate it. This is a time to strengthen it. This is one of the fundamental things that has not happened. The legislature didn't give us even environmental guidance until 2019. And to eliminate the committee in its infancy is, I say, poor judgment at this time. We need to keep the Environmental Justice Committee within AQMD and strengthen it to be a guiding light going forward. Everything everybody talked about today was lack of environmental justice, and you want to get rid of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Thurl. Next is Emily Zhu. Go ahead, Emily.
Hello, South Coast AQMD board members. My name is Emily, and I'm a UCLA student speaking on behalf of a growing coalition of students and campus organizations urging you to pass strong industrial decarbonization rules, specifically rules 1146 and 1146.1 in 2026. UCLA students are paying attention. In the past 3 days alone, my co-organizer and I have gathered support for nearly hundreds of students and several campus organizations who want bold climate action. We're asking this agency to protect our health, our communities, and our future. We feel these impacts directly. As you already may have heard today, educational institutions make up nearly 10% of industrial emissions in the region, and the pollution from nearby industrial sources is the air we breathe every day. Your decision matters for our health. Passing strong rules could prevent 2 million asthma attacks, save over 3,000 lives, and avoid nearly $50 billion in healthcare costs, benefits that will especially support low-income communities of colors that have faced disproportionate harm for decades. Students are doing our part. Now we need the South Coast AQMD to do the same. We ask you to truly hear every single public comment today, asking you to act with urgency. Please pass strong rules that protect young people and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Next speaker has a phone number of 310 ending in 841. Go ahead. You're muted. We can't hear you. Please unmute. area code 310, number ending in 841. Please unmute. We'll come back to that speaker. Next is Luz Johanna Perez. Luz, go ahead, please.
Good morning. Good morning, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Luz Perez. I live in Fontana, and I'm an environmental justice ambassador with CCAEJ. I would like to urge this board to take meaningful, urgent action for the residents of San Bernardino and Riverside counties. Our communities continue to shoulder the heaviest cumulative impacts, diesel pollution, industrial emissions, and an ever-growing concentration of boilers and combustion equipment in the Inland Empire. We need serious rulemaking and intentionality that puts the health of families over profits. Rules 1146 and 1146.1 must move forward. The IE has a tremendous number of industrial boilers contributing to already dangerous pollution levels, and delaying action only worsens the burdens on those most exposed. This year, our region earned the continuous devastating title of #1 for the worst air quality in the nation. This is not an achievement, it's a failure of our collective responsibility. The mission of this agency is clear: protect public health and achieve clean air attainment, yet we continue to fall short. As a mother of a 1-year-old, I want to ensure my daughter and all children grow up in a world with clean air. It is our responsibility to make the world a better place for our future generations. I'm asking you today, make these rules a priority in the first quarter of 2026. Families cannot wait. Our lungs cannot wait. We all deserve clean air, and we need this board to lead with urgency to the crisis it demands. Thank you.
Thank you, Luz. Again, next speaker is area code 310, phone number ending 841. Go ahead, please. You're muted again. Please unmute. Give you one more chance. Please unmute. Area code 310 speaker. We'll go to the next speaker, Elizabeth Abian. Go ahead, Liz.
Good morning, Chair Delgado and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Lizbeth, and I am Deputy Director at the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice. We represent immigrant mixed status families all over the Inland Empire, and I currently live in San Bernardino and have lived also in Bloomington, an unincorporated area in San Bernardino County. More than anything, I am proud to be a mother of 2 beautiful children, and an area of great concern for me is the air. Air pollution is such a concern because most of my family has asthma, and over the past few years, I've seen how asthma has impacted my entire family, including myself. And so I don't want this future for my kids. So I asked the board, please pass zero emission standards for rules 1146 and 1146.1. These holidays are very great because we get to spend time with our families. And if you vote in favor of these solutions, it would be of great happiness for our community. So we're asking you to put our public health first by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers, zero emissions, and zero regrets. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next speaker is Chris Chavez. Welcome, Chris.
Yes, good morning, board members. Chris Chavez, Deputy Policy Director at Coalition for Clean Air. Just want to echo the sentiments of what others have said today about the need for advancing rules that reduce air pollution and strong rules that reduce air pollution, deploy zero emission equipment wherever possible. 2025, as others have also said, has been a difficult year, and that is since the Sarah district, the district left 10 tons per day, up to 10 tons per day reduction of NOx on the table back in May. And this is really a keen opportunity to pick up the work where and look for those opportunities to reduce air pollution. The district has a long way to go to meeting those air quality standards that we have, in many cases, never been able to meet. And we need to take every opportunity that there is to make sure that we are protecting the public health of the 17 million people that live within the South Coast Air Quality base or South Coast Air Quality Management District's jurisdiction. So appreciate everybody who has come out and spoken today, and urge the district to really take this opportunity and to take this opportunity very seriously, given that federal attainment is looming over us, as is the possibility of federal sanctions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next speaker is Claudia Cuevas. Claudia, go ahead, please. Claudia, go ahead. Your turn.
Hola, muy buenos días.
Buenos días. Good morning.
Mi nombre es Claudia Cuevas y soy organizadora en el Centro Comunitario de Acción y Justicia Ambiental.
Yeah, the interpreter.
Mi comunidad de San Bernardino es una de las comunidades más desfavorecida con una instalación, perdón, mil disculpas. Que mi comunidad, es que estoy un poco enferma, mil disculpas. Mi comunidad de San Bernardino es una comunidad desfavorecida con una alta concentración de instalaciones que queman gas en estas calderas. La decisión que tienen ante ustedes es sencilla. Seguirán permitiendo que nuestras familias y la salud de nuestros niños, ancianos y trabajadores, en su mayoría pertenecientes a comunidades de color, sean afectadas. Necesitamos cero emisiones. Es el único cambio para una. Perdón, ¿sí me escuchan? Disculpa. Hola. Bueno. Hola. No sé si me escuchan. No, es que no escuchaba nada. Mil disculpas. De nada más necesito decir que cero emisiones, eso es el único camino hacia una equidad para nuestras comunidades. Como madre de dos adolescentes con asma, quiero un cambio para unas familias saludables sin necesidad de, como padre, correr a un hospital con la angustia de no saber si tu hijo está bien. Entonces queremos un cambio para aire seguro. Gracias por su tiempo.
Thank you, Claudia. Next is Alexis De Jesus. Go ahead.
Good morning, community and members of the board. My name is Alexis De Jesus, and I represent the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. I have lived in several cities all across the Inland Empire, all of them CAL and Virus Screen disadvantaged communities, all with high concentrations of facilities burning gas in these boilers. The carbon oxide emissions from the thousands of industrial boilers in our region can affect our air quality for decades. Just as you succeeded in setting a precedent with Rule 1146.2 and 1153.1, you have the opportunity to set a national and global precedent for industrial pollution reduction. For this holiday season, our region's wish is simple. Pass zero emission standards for Rules 1146 and 1146.1. Please put our public health first by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers, zero emissions, and zero regrets. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Next is Nicole Lugo's iPhone. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, AQMD board members. Thank you for allowing me a chance to speak here today. My name is Nicole Mervis. I am a mother of a child with asthma, a nurse, a member of WAVE, Women for American Values and Ethics, and a resident of Orange County. Today, I ask for the South Coast AQMD board to pass strong industrial decarbonization rules 1146 and 1146.1 in 2026. As a mother, I do all that I can to help my daughter control her asthma, but something that's out of my control is the air that she breathes when she leaves the house. You hold such an important position in that you have the power to pass policies that will create a safer and healthier environment for children. You can create infrastructures that are clean and decrease harmful pollution for years to come. I worked in a pediatric ICU, and I can say that firsthand how devastating something like asthma can be, how it impacts quality of life, and how dangerous it is. Passing rules 1146 and 1146.1 will decrease emissions and help with the very real problem of our poor air quality here in Southern California. Passing these rules will be so impactful. This board has an opportunity to create real change that will help the quality of life for all of the people and the community that you serve. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Next speaker is Public Affairs PPO SBC. Go ahead. You're muted.
Dear Chair Delgado and board members, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Emily Escobar. I serve as the Public Affairs Advocacy Manager for Planned Parenthood of Orange and San Bernardino counties. For far too long, the Southern California Air Basin has carried the burden of being the most ozone-polluted metro area in the country, but the board has an opportunity to achieve much-needed NOx reductions in 2026 by passing zero-emission standards for Rules 1146 and 1146.1. As an advocate for public health, Planned Parenthood of Orange and San Bernardino counties provides access to comprehensive reproductive health care to communities in both Orange and San Bernardino counties. Last fiscal year, our affiliates served 1,000 unique patients. We know that public health doesn't just mean access to health care. It also means access to clean air for all communities, especially communities that are vulnerable to increased risk of toxic air. NOx pollution can impact women's health by increasing risks for reproductive problems like infertility and miscarriage, contributing to cardiovascular issues like hypertension, exacerbating respiratory diseases, and potentially elevating the risk for certain cancer. We're asking you to put our community's public health first by committing to rules for zero pollution boilers, zero emission, zero regrets. We urge you to take decisive action in 2026 to ensure a cleaner, healthier future for every community in the basin. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, we have two more, is Kayla Lamb. Kayla, go ahead.
Good morning, AQMD board members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Kayla Lamb, and I am a first-year UCLA student here to demand the passage of strong decarbonization rules 1146 and 1146.1 in 2026. I'm originally from the Bay Area, which ranks amongst the worst cities in the US for air quality. Moving to Los Angeles this year for college, I was really excited to make it my new home, but I was concerned about how the air quality is equally as poor as that in the Bay Area metro. I became hopeful for the passage of 1146 and 1146.1, especially given their stringency on NOx emissions compared to the less stringent regulations in the Bay Area. Educational institutions like UCLA account for 10% of the industrial emissions in our region, and I expect you to act to protect the public health of young people like me. As I explore Los Angeles and begin volunteering in the community, it isn't hard to notice the impact of poor air quality on the respiratory health of the friends I've made and the community I've begun to get to know. I urge you to use your power to protect our health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kayla. That concludes public comment period.
Just a reminder, we did cut off public comment online at a certain time. So if you tried to join, that's why that was blocked. All right. Let's move on to the consent and board calendar, items 1 through 25. Mayor Pro Tem McCallum.
Thank you very much. I just have a disclosure for agenda item number 12. I do not have a financial interest, but I am required to identify for the record that I am a member of the board of directors for the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, which is involved in this item.
Thank you. Supervisor Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am recusing myself from agenda item number 2A because of financial interest in Kinder Morgan, Inc., which is materially affected by this item.
Thank you. Supervisor Hagman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. For agenda number 12, I do not have a financial interest, but I do have to identify for the record. I'm a member of the Board of Directors for San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, which is involved in this item.
Thank you. Mayor Locke Dawson.
Hi, thank you. For agenda item number 9, I don't have a financial interest, but required to identify for the record, I am a board member for the California Air Resources Board, which is involved in this item. Thank you.
And Supervisor Hagman again?
I'll move the consent item.
All right. It's a motion to move the consent item.
Second.
All right. Mayor Locke Dawson, are you? Nope.
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So that's item 1 through 25. Is there anything else, Bay, that we missed?
Just one person has signed up for public comment
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
and also 3 online.
Okay. I'll take those. So Marvin is here. It's our actually, and there's you're right, there's 3. Sorry. Marvin's our first speaker.
Good morning again, Marvin Norman. I just wanted to speak in support and thank you for this item. I've driven an electric car, I believe, since 2017. And so when I first started driving, the AQMD site was one of the ways I could have to stop by to get home from if I went to LA. So it's good to be able, and then after a while, they weren't working. And so, and the industry Metrolink station isn't open on weekends, for example. So it's good to see that these chargers are coming available again. Obviously, there are more in the area, so it's not as critical, but still it's good for nevertheless, when I come here to talk to you guys to charge before I go back home. Thanks.
Thank you. For item 22, we have Tom and Casey.
Good morning, Governing Board members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tom Katroulis, Director of OC Waste and Recycling. We provide waste management services for 34 jurisdictions, representing 3.1 million Orange County residents. Recent legislation with SB 1383 requires jurisdictions throughout California to divert organic waste to reduce methane emissions, a known greenhouse gas, from landfills. In addition, the Air Resources Board just adopted amendments to their landfill methane rules to further reduce emissions from landfills. OC Waste and Recycling has already invested $15 million to comply with SB 1383, supporting our 34 cities by diverting organic waste through open windrow composting operations. To effectively and responsibly meet SB 1383 goals, we need covered aerated static piles to process more organic waste within the same footprint while lowering emissions and water consumption. Open windrow composting is a natural biological process that is not treated as a source emissions by the AQMD and does not require an air permit. CASP, or the covered aerated static piles, introduces ambient air and covers to control natural processes while reducing natural emissions by 90%. From AQMD's perspective, existing rules require OC Waste and Recycling to obtain permits to reduce emissions on an unpermitted natural process. This new permit makes CASP look like a new source emissions because there was no prior compost equipment emissions permitted by AQMD. These new emissions are now required, which at this point, this is for the BRC didn't do that right. If it's difficult for you to follow, I understand.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Casey Corliss. I'm also with Orange County Waste and Recycling, and I'm going to continue the statement started by Tom. We believe that no permit should be required for our CASP equipment and that it is an essential public service provided by OCWR as required by SB 83 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We understand that AQMD would like to form a working group to address this misalignment. However, time is of the essence. OCWR has invested significant time and resources obtaining CEQA certification and all other regulatory requirements. This is the last permit needed to make these critical improvements. We are happy to participate in a working group, but unclear what purpose it would serve. Our goal is simple: comply with state requirements, prevent landfill emissions from being generated, and protect public costs while respecting the district's permitting framework. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And then we have three online.
First speaker is Chris Chavez. Chris, go ahead. You have a minute and a half.
Yes, good morning again, board members. Chris Chavez, Deputy Policy Director, Coalition for Clean Air. In relation to item 21, we want to express our concerns about the proposed elimination of the Environmental Justice Advisory Group. And I want to start by noting that we agree that the current advisory group system is not working. We also want to acknowledge that the broader environmental and environmental justice community has not given the EJAG the prioritization it needs. But it can't be forgotten that this district also blocked EJAG from being able to discuss one of the most pressing environmental justice and air quality issues in our region, port pollution. And that request has been made since 2022. South Coast has made Brown Act accommodations for other advisory groups, including EJAG before. So it doesn't make sense why this committee was not allowed to speak on this issue this time around. As far as the proposed replacements for EJAG, each has their own limitations and problem. AB 617 only represents 5 communities within nearly 11,000 square mile jurisdiction of South Coast. How are a non-AB 617 communities going to be represented? The EJ Community Partnerships main event, the EJ Conference, was quietly canceled this year. What other function does it have beyond that? The only thing I can find is information from 2018. Participation at the committee hearings is limited to written comments and a few minutes of public testimony, often less. There are fewer opportunities to engage. We really urge you to work with the environmental justice community to develop a solution that works for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next is Ramin Ross. Go ahead.
Good morning, Governing Board. Ramin Ross with the Western States Petroleum Association. I'm commenting on item 2A, the set hearing for proposed amended Rule 463. WISPA would like to express its appreciation to staff, the rule writing team, the permitting team for the time and effort to develop these proposed amendments. Our members are appreciative to staff for these clarifications that will be encoded in the rule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramin. Next is Speaker number 310, ending in 841. Go ahead, please. You're unmuted. Please unmute.
Yo, I'm being heard?
Yes, Harvey, you're being heard. Go ahead, please.
Okay. This is my third time calling in. I pressed it at least 6 or 8 times. I'm being heard, man, straight up. Okay.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk. Okay. I'm giving myself a 40-year pin. We're quoted in 85 by 88 in staff comments on the plan is talking about solar energy.
Hey,
But
this
was
isn't
in the
related to
70s.
items on the agenda that are being addressed now, so we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say before we move on, so we did hear loud and clear about EJAG and local government, those two committees. Although there may be issues with their current structure, we're going to work on something to consolidate and make those more active in policy decisions. So I think the next time we hear that is an admin. So definitely heard that. I don't want anyone to think that we're continuing on that path. But all right. So there's a motion and a second for the consent calendar. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just had a point of clarification on one of the public comments related to representatives from Orange County. Was that related to item 27?
Stationary.
22.
It really was, Mayor.
Mayor.
We'll be speaking to it at the next item. Okay?
But it was also previously addressed in the Stationary Source Committee, so it was in those minutes as well.
Thank you.
All right. But that one's coming to us in the agenda, so. All right. Can we get a roll call vote, please? Are we waiting for somebody? There it goes. Everybody's tired today. That's okay. All right. That we're now on item 27. Morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members. Now we will get to item 27. I'm Jason Aspel, Deputy Executive Officer with Engineering and Permitting here at South Coast. I'm going to be presenting a background on emission offset requirements and the priority reserve. Next slide, please. As you are well aware now, we have the board has received comments from the waste industry requesting to be defined as essential public services for permitting purposes. Again, as we just discussed, this was presented to Stationary Source a couple of weeks ago. We did feel it was important enough to present it and bring it to the full board for discussion. And so we are specifically discussing composting and landfill renewable gas operations. And so these projects are being undertaken in response to SB 1383, which is the state's organic diversion program under Cal Recycle, and that has the goal of reducing methane emissions in landfills, which is a greenhouse gas. Therefore, with this diversion, comes new operations at a variety of locations which need air permitting. So for today's presentation, We're going to review the regulations and the source of some potential concerns and consequences. And these are some of the most complex regulations we have, so we really want to boil everything down and the requirements to help aid this discussion. Next slide, please. So first is New Source Review, or NSR, and this is the cornerstone of our permitting program. It is designed to allow for economic and business growth in the area, and as that happens, the new and modified permit sources don't interfere with or progress towards attainment because the system is driving down emissions over the life of the permitting program. So there are two important components of NSR, backed best available control technology, and also emission offsets. The backed program ensures that as there is any new or modified permit units, they are subject to the lowest established emission standards for that category of equipment. For emission offsets, that means as there's any increases of emissions from new equipment, there must be some sort of previous emission reduction that has been evaluated and documented by the district. So with these NSR requirements, there is a downward trend of emissions, and that ultimately meets the design of the permitting program, the NSR program, with no net emission increases. And these are state and federal requirements that we must conform to. Next slide, please. So today we're going to be focusing a lot on emission offsets. Emission offsets are determined during the permit evaluation process when staff does their emission calculations. Facilities can satisfy this requirement in a few different ways, but there's two overarching categories of how this is done: the open market and the district's internal account. So first, for the open markets, facilities can purchase emission reduction credits, or ERCs, and ERCs are certified emission reductions that have been verified by staff to meet a very, very rigorous criteria. Once one of these ERCs is generated, a facility can use it for their future projects to offset emissions, or they can sell it on the open market for another facility to use. This is a market-based system, so prices do fluctuate, but prices can be in the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for a pound of emissions, and that depends on which contaminant they're buying. So the program results in emission reductions over time because a permit applicant has to buy 20% more emissions than what they'll actually be permitted for. So the second category is the district's internal account, which covers a wide variety of offset exemptions for different types of operations and equipment. And South Coast NSR system is very different than the federal NSR system in that we allow many of these different offset exemptions, but these aren't your typical rule exemptions where a facility simply doesn't need to comply with a requirement. The district now takes on the burden of covering those emission offsets through our internal accounting, and that is done to ensure we are equivalent with the federal NSR system. So under this internal account, there are two main mechanisms to cover offsetting. One is our Rule 1304, which is offset exemptions. The other is Rule 1309.1, which is the priority reserve. So like I said, there's many different exemptions. The most common one under 1304 is for low emitting facilities that are under 4 tons per year of each contaminant. And these are typically your small to mid-sized businesses. As long as we keep that internal account positive, then we can provide these offset exemptions. And then this saves smaller emitting businesses from having to invest in those ERCs. So next, the second one under the internal account is the priority reserve. And this is a source of credits managed by the district, which is funded by quarterly allocations from the internal account and is meant to provide a reliable source of credits for specified sources, including essential public services. As long as there's credits available, there's no additional charge over the priority reserve, but there are some caveats to that. Lastly, to finish out this slide, these exemptions and priority reserve allowances draw and debit from the internal account. The majority of the credits to the internal account occur from what we call orphan shutdowns. And what that is when permitted equipment is shut down and those permits are inactivated and they are not being used to generate ERCs, then the district reclaims a percentage of those emissions, and that is credited to the internal account. So that was a lot there, but it boils down to open market and internal account, and under internal account is the exemptions and priority reserve. So next slide, please. So Rule 1302 defines these essential public services, and any additions to this list would require a rule amendment, and staff does adhere closely to the original analyses for these categories. Composting is currently not listed and primarily results in VOC emissions. For landfill RNG, it does result in a variety of contaminants. The one of most concern right now is SOx. And there's a couple things to note. Is for landfill gas processing category, when the essential public service exemption was added decades ago, only combustion of the gas was contemplated as a fuel, and that's how our rules were crafted to limit emissions. So now staff is evaluating these landfill RNG projects, which are now creating a natural gas commodity, not just burning landfill gas as the fuel. That was not ever contemplated and, well, not contemplated in the rulemaking, and now we are dealing with rule gaps to limit emissions. So we do recognize these operations are typically considered beneficial, but it is now how we address it in our rules and permitting. So if this definition is expanded and with the newly identified rule gaps that staff has identified, staff does have concern about the magnitude of emissions which will be drawn from the internal account and how that will impact offset exemption allowances for all businesses. Again, the district takes on this burden, taken from the internal account, and there are negative consequences if certain thresholds are exceeded in the account. Next slide, please. So now we'll dive into staff's concern regarding these requests and the exemptions. So Rule 1315 requires staff to track and report federal NSR equivalency for the internal account. And staff reports the internal account balances to the board along with a projection for the next 2 years. And a very important component of this is the cumulative net emission increase thresholds in the rule, which are commensurate with the CEQA analysis that was done at the time of rulemaking for 1315. As long as the cumulative net emission increase stay below those thresholds, staff can continue to, or the district can continue to cover the offset exemptions under 1304 and fund the priority reserve, and businesses can avoid buying ERCs. If these thresholds are exceeded or projected to be exceeded, then all permit applications which depend on those exemptions for whatever contaminant exceeded the threshold, those permit applications are on hold and cannot be issued. It is a moratorium. A facility could actually still be permitted, but what they would be required to do is purchase the ERCs. There are no more offset exemptions in this scenario, and this includes the smaller businesses I mentioned. So this provision would last until the balance of the subject contaminant comes down below 10% of the threshold. And as I said earlier, the internal account is mostly credited with those orphan shutdowns, which is the natural economic cycle of permit units and facilities shutting down to get back within that threshold. So this entire mechanism is in place to avoid the potential of a CEQA lawsuit for the rule and stay within that original CEQA analysis. There is your complexities and concerns. So next slide, please. So staff is assessing the potential impacts of the request and will revisit CalRecycle's original estimates to see if they were accurate. Staff has been permitting composting operations, and most of them currently have chosen to stay below within the existing emission thresholds or increase their control efficiencies to reduce their ERC burden. If current control efficiencies, if it were to be added, it would take a significant portion of the VOC balance under the 1315 CEQA threshold. Currently, staff is only working on about 5 landfill RNG projects in various stages, none of which have been permitted yet. Again, SOX is the contaminant of concern. It just so happens that SOX has the lowest CEQA threshold by quite a large margin. So a very preliminary assessment was done based on a potential of 10 of these worst case facilities and considering this new rule gap. And it was projected that it would exceed the 1315 CEQA thresholds for SOX if they were added to the 1304 exemptions. And if they were added as essential public services, it would drain the priority reserve even faster than that. So the concern, again, the point of concern here is that there would be large debits from the internal account from one industrial sector, but then have a ripple effect for all industries and then a potential permit moratorium. Next slide, please. So staff does feel a full analysis is warranted due to the potential significant permitting impacts, as well as industry does need to plan for their future projects and how they're going to comply with SB 1383. This is much more than is usually addressed in the permitting of these operations. And staff will continue to work with CalRecycle as well as the other air districts because they are also experiencing this as well. So the issues I have discussed today are in our current rules, and there's a public process that needs to happen to amend those rules. So that is why, to fully and transparently discuss this issue, planning staff will be initiating the working group process to address those rules and develop recommendations. So in the meantime, staff is continuing to work on the permit projects to process those applications, and facilities can continue to strategize how they either wish to purchase ERCs or strategize on lowering their emissions to utilize the current allowances. So that concludes my presentation, and I can answer the questions, which I'm sure you all have on that.
All right, thank you so much. That was a lot, but I appreciate that you clearly have a handle on it. Mayor Locke-Dawson.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I know this is a big topic of conversation at CARB as well. And I know we saw these folks up in CARB a couple weeks ago regarding the methane, the new updates to methane regulations from CARB. One of the things I'm struggling with this, and I'm hoping Wayne can weigh in here. He and I have had this discussion. You know, one of the promises of SB 1383 was that the idea that the excess gas that was coming off was renewable, RNG, you talked about that, was the promise of a new clean fuel source that could be put back into the system, right? It was a circular system that was supposed to be good. But now we're hearing from CARB that that is not going to be, particularly for the new fleet rules, that they don't want to use renewable natural gas. And we're kind of stuck in this, I think, conundrum that I think many of the landfill operators felt that this was going to be a good use of the gas and that they were going to be able to do their fleets. But now I think we're seeing that that is not going to be the case. I don't know if you want to talk about that, if Wayne wants to weigh in on it, or I see Wayne's face. He's like, yeah.
It is a very difficult issue to address because of changing priorities. The challenge that we have that Jason tried to clarify is under our Reg 13 and NSR. And because it affects so much of our overall program, we have to be very careful with it. And so I know it's a very difficult time right now, but we're trying to move forward in a way that keeps us in compliance on the federal side without necessarily causing a moratorium or causing issues that would cause even further pain. And so it's treading that fine line with the federal agencies as well as the state agencies to make sure that no one entity moves in a way that hurts all of us. And that's the line that we're trying to do.
So I'm assuming this is going to be discussed in the working group, I hope. I think one of the things that I've heard from CARB staff is that, you know, there is an ignition source. I think that's where the issue comes down. I think there's a combustion aspect to this when they use the energy. So this is where the rub lies. But it's connected to a whole bunch of other regs. So anyway, I'd just like to hear the results of that at some point and perhaps have some guidance when I go back up to CARB so we can have a good conversation. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Board Member Padilla Campos.
Thank you. That was a lot.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, for your working group, do you have environmental justice groups that participate in the group?
So I'll add, this will be, correct me if I'm wrong, but a typical rulemaking group. So these are all NSR rules we have. So this would be open to the public industry. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yes. You sort of now I want to know more. So how does that coming of a working group happen then? Is it just sort of an open meeting? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, thank you for the question. So our standard practice is to send out a massive outreach. We do have some existing mailing lists already and email addresses that we send out. And we also encourage folks to do sign up. You probably see a lot of times we present, we always remind them how to sign up and how to get engaged and involved with our working group process.
So it might be a different group every time, whoever can attend. It's not like a set group that gets to sort of sit at the table.
You're correct. It is an open forum. We try to get the technical parties that are directly being affected by the proposed rule. And that's why oftentimes the working groups tend to be more technical in nature. But we encourage many others to participate. So environmental justice groups would be welcomed as much as manufacturers, those that utilize equipment, local government, whoever wants to comment, really.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor Rodriguez.
Thank you. Just a few questions for staff. Just trying to get my arms around the presentation and some of the comments made earlier today by OC Waste and Recycling. So just series of questions here. What is the purpose of the working group? What's the timeline on OC Waste and Recycling regarding the permitting? Just considering their efforts that are underway, why can't composting processes be exempt under a Rule 219 for publicly operated facilities, or a clarification made under Rule 1304? And then finally, why isn't there an urgency to capture these biogenic VOCs? So I know I threw just like 4 of them at you. We can take them one at a time, but
Why don't I take some of the permitting ones first?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Mayor. So in terms of timelines, many of these are on different timelines. We would anticipate, as is, that they would be moving in the 2026 timeframe. I think the hurdle a lot of these projects have always hit, and you'll hear this a lot from the waste industry, is when staff determines ERCs are needed and they need to be purchased. That tends to bring a full stop to the permitting process as facilities contemplate how they want to proceed if they just want to lower their emissions. In regards to Rule 219 and permit exemptions. Again, that is a rule and it would need to be amended and go through the amendment process to add a category to it. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that would need to go through EPA as well for approval, as with these other regulations. I'll pause there.
Just for a moment, unless Wayne, did you have something you're gonna? I was gonna say, well, certainly as you're moving forward and exploring the issue, I'd encourage staff to reconsider a rule interpretation that includes these landfills rather than starting over with a formal rule amendment.
We have considered what you're asking, and we've determined that we're unable to proceed in that fashion.
Why?
You guys want to take it?
Just to be clear, we have rules in place for like, for example, composting, which we've already gone through. You know, there are rules in place, and there's rules for NSR. So basically what we're looking at is to go back to those and find out what areas that we can amend to sort of work through these issues.
He's asking for straight out exemptions. We can't do that. Thought we looked at it.
Yeah, just keep in mind that composting process in itself does generate emissions. That's why we have those rules. We do, as the commenter had noted, however, that you are exempt from permitting if you use the windrows composting. So that is an option for them.
Yeah, I just think, generally, we're hearing from those who've been waiting about 5 years for their permits, and I'm not sure why these projects that lower emissions even need emission credit offsets, but if they do, it was my understanding that the priority reserve currently has plenty of credits available. So again, just as we move forward and exploring this issue, I'd encourage staff to reconsider a rule interpretation. I'm hearing that you've considered that, but just hate to see those that are working as good actors in this effort are potentially having to go through unnecessarily costly delays. But I'll be eager to see what this working group results in. Clearly, there was some lingering concerns, to say the least, today. So,
yeah, and just thank you. Just to address some of that. I mean, we are permitting composting facilities, and they do have controls installed. This has been established and achieved in practice. And some of our rules do require, as the VOC emissions from these sources are increased, you have to install controls in them. That is our Rule 1133 series that recently came to the board, and I think is going to also be re-amended. But there is opportunity with those systems in place that they can voluntarily increase their control efficiencies if they want to test at a higher limit and commit to that in their permit limits. And that could reduce their burden for ERCs. But I think, as Mr. Kraus said, these are actual emissions and they are large amounts. Some of these facilities do qualify as Title V federal facilities for permitting, and we're dealing with them now through the permitting process.
Mayor Rodriguez, in response to your question, for the purpose of the working group, the purpose will be to explore, options, be creative, see what we can do to address this issue.
how soon would you anticipate having something to report?
They're going to start the working group they're already starting on, looking into what can be done. But the working group meeting, they're planning the first one in January. So.
Thank you. Congratulations on 35 years, by the way.
Supervisor Nguyen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to piggyback on Mayor Rodriguez's. So this working group that has been formed, when do you think that we would get something to this board or, to a committee? Because I know the Orange County side, we need the help and we need this to move faster.
And we still believe that we're exempt, we should be exempt as a local government. And so that's where our frustration is. And I brought this up a few months ago. And so I'm just, in terms of time frame wise, it's not helping us, and it's not, it's getting much more difficult because we also, from the county side, has our own process as well.
I think I just want to make sure for my own staff supervisor, as Jason said, there are options. The challenge is we recognize those options are costly right now. So we're trying to come up with other ideas that we might be able to do it. If the working group happens in January, what we would normally do is report back to Stationary Source Committee. That would most likely not be until February, March, somewhere in that time frame. But what we could do is make sure that we're keeping the board apprised throughout the process. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do it through committee meetings or board meetings, but we'll work with the board members that are interested in this and just keep you apprised.
Please, thank you, because I know it's not just Orange County. I know other counties are also are facing the same issue. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, is that the higher costs it costs for the county's waste and recycling system, it then triggers back to the consumers, right, the residents, because this is all going to be passed down, and I hate to see that. And so, given where we are right now economically and the high inflation that continues for the last few years now, so I just want to make sure that we're also fair to the residents, not just Orange County, but all the other residents that could put other counties that could be affected by this.
And I think the point that was also made is that unfortunately, we're not in a unique position in the state. Other districts are also facing this. So perhaps we can think about a state approach as well.
Legislative fix?
Maybe. I want to think and get the staff and look at some of the possibilities on that front.
Well, we do legislative fix legislatively. January and February is when the deadline to introduce a bill. So if anything, we might need to have to look at a spot bill potential ask before we can put something in concrete for this coming year.
And as Susan just reminded me, it's also the Clean Air Act as well. So trying to fix that would be very, very, very difficult.
Impossible.
Some would say impossible.
So I think Supervisor Nguyen, to your comment, that is exactly our concern, is because there are other folks that are kind of knocking at the door and asking a similar question. And so what Jason had explained, there's two things that we need to watch. One is how many credits are in the internal bank. I like to call it the bank. And the other is the CEQA threshold. If we're going to hit the CEQA threshold probably first. And the numbers that we have from the state on the recycling, we think they're probably too high, but we need to sharpen our pencil to understand what that really is and what that really means. But if we hit that CEQA threshold, or we think we're going to hit it, it's a permanent moratorium. And it means for all the small facilities, essential public services, that's our concern.
Okay, thank you.
Just
Mayor, go ahead.
one more follow-up comment for Wayne. The idea that this would go into March, if we are having a initial meeting with a working group in January, it'd be great if stationary could have, the timing could be, then it could roll into the first stationary meeting of the year. Would we not be meeting for stationary in January?
The first Stationary Source Committee meeting in January would be too early, I believe, to report back. And February, and the reason I had said March, I mean, the supervisor had said February. February, we might be able to do it, but depending on when the working group meeting, if it's late in the month, that really doesn't give us much time to do any type of real analysis.
Respectfully, can we not have it late in the month of January? I just would generally say if we could take the same, maybe close to the same amount of urgency, and we accomplished a lot in 45 days on the ports front. So if we can go get that much progress in 45 days on seemingly something going into that was seemingly insurmountable, surely we can cover a lot of ground in 45 days and get something up into February. I just, again, not wanting this to go into the first quarter and spill into the second quarter, and just there's a general sense of shared urgency I'm sure we all have. So just as best we can do, I'd appreciate that.
We will move as best as we can. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
As everyone pointed out, this is a real complex issue, and there are a lot of facets to it, and it could affect all across the board in terms of our businesses. But I think there needs to be some urgency, and I realize staff is working hard on the port issue and bringing back something on that. I would encourage staff to come back to the Stationary Source Committee as soon as you can. You've heard some urgency by other board members. I think whatever we can do, but it is a complex issue, and we have to realize there are many facets that we have to look at. So,
Would you like to? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up. The working group, we're looking at specifically just trying to resolve the composting issues, right? Because the landfill gas renewable natural gas project doesn't need the working group, right?
They both do.
Yes.
The working group will address the new source review regulation, which there's a number of rules in there. These regulations are SIP approved, they're federally approved. Any changes that we make, we need to run by EPA. This one is one of the more complex ones, but it will include both.
Well, and I think that goes back to what we've been talking about, is because I mean, the landfill gas, renewable natural gas part of it, I mean, shouldn't we just comply with our own definition of what essential public service is instead, and not have to combine that with the working group so that that can be bifurcated and then one can move forward and why the other one continue?
So, appreciate that, because that is a nuance in there. And staff has worked with our legal team on this one. The point of concern is at certain point, the gas is now natural gas, and how are we handling that under our rules? And if it is just slightly off spec, you're flaring natural gas. And then also how the sulfur cleanup is handled that's in that natural gas. There were previously regulations that were very clear on what you had to do. Now that it's not a flare or an engine combusting it, those aren't in place. So it becomes a very large amount of potential sulfur emissions, which then impacts or starts to approach the CEQA thresholds we talked about. So it's just something that was not contemplated before. So we do adhere to the original rule analysis, everything that was done that added them into essential public services. This is a new concept.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Mayor, did you have something else you want to say? Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And we'll keep talking about it. Okay, we have 3 public hearings today. I'm sorry, for item number 28, we're going to choose to receive and file unless Lisa really wants to.
We can do time, or we
Okay,
can.
yeah, sure. Like one of the board members who specifically wanted to hear this presentation is not here today. So if January is okay?
Yeah.
All right.
before we move on, I was going to comment on this, if I might.
Oh, yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. At SCAG yesterday, we were talking about the conformity lockdown that we had as a result of the disapproval of the waiver for California, which resulted in CARB having to redo the emissions model. And while they were doing that, that we didn't have an emissions model, and that put us into a conformity lockdown where we couldn't move any transportation projects forward. That conformity lockdown has recently been lifted because CARB got approval of the model from EPA. But as we know, this past week, we've had now the administration eliminating the CAFE standards on fuel. Is that going to have any effect on CARB's model, which would put us into a new lockdown, or is that something else?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So the lockdown that was recently faced was a result of CARB had updated their MFAC model, and when they do that, things are a little out of sync. And but EPA did approve that recently, so we're out of hock on that. Yeah, with the CAFE standards being repealed, I think we're going to have to look at that. I think there's going to be a number of other issues in the future that we're going to have to continue to evaluate as EPA rolls back certain requirements, and that then changes what our estimates are for emissions versus what we have in the SIP. So we're going to continue to monitor that.
Thank you.
Board Member Padilla Campos?
So just to be clear, are we still going to hear the presentation just in January? Or it's just going to...
We can bring it back in January. Part of the rationale that we wanted to do it in December was, as Board Member Nguyen noted, that there's limited time in January to bring out legislation. So we wanted to put out the priorities, get any feedback. But we've been working with the Vice Chair and the Ledge Committee on that. So I would hope that the board members are confident that we'll continue to work with the Vice Chair and all the members and move forward in a way that the board supports.
So is it okay if I still ask a question about it or make a comment?
Sure.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you all were in Sun Valley on November 15th and working with Senator Menjivar on 526.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering what type of community outreach is planned for that in 2026, and if there is a proposed timeline for Rule 1157.
So the answer is yes, with regards to the proposed timeline for 1156. Is it 57?
1157, yeah. We're having,
third quarter?
Second quarter.
Second quarter. We'll be coming back. And then as far as outreach, I'm going to ask Lisa to weigh in because we're actually coordinating quite a bit with the Senator's office. I know we have a working group planned for next month, and then a series of outreach efforts with the Senator's staff. Lisa, if you can elaborate.
Yes, actually, so we have had a comprehensive approach with the Senator's office. We're working not only on the proposed amended Rule 1157, but we have an advanced compliance and enforcement effort with Terrence Mann, monitoring and analysis involved, and of course, Dr. Sessa Hurt Johnson and her AB 617 team, as well as ALPAM. So our next steps after we just did a debriefing with the Senator is we'll be doing a training with her staff on how to file complaints, both online with our app and calling in. And then we are going out into the community with them and in partnership to do additional trainings and going to events. We go to the soccer games, we go to the neighborhood community meetings. We're trying to take advantage of every opportunity to build that relationship with the community so that they feel comfortable working with us and filing complaints to help that enforcement action. And so we're doing a lot of activities, and we also have been into the schools and we're trying to get them to participate in our CAPES and WHAM program as well, so that the youth can also become engaged with the program. So
that sounds wonderful, Lisa. So this is with the Senator's office?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Can I offer our organization to help with that outreach? Is that
absolutely?
Is that okay?
We would.
I know you met one of my team members at the meeting, and they were like, "How can we do more?" I mean, this location really needs it, needs the attention, and really want to get involved. So
we would love that. Thank you so much.
Okay, we need to
So
have a
we'll
meeting.
talk
Yes.
with you separate coordinate on the outreach and working with the Senator's office.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Let's start the public hearings. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Delgado and board members. I'll be presenting on 1107, our metal products coding rule. Next slide, please. So this rule regulates VOC emissions from metal parts and products coatings. There's 22 coating categories, amongst the most stringent in the nation for VOC limits. This amendment is not to change those limits, but to instead look at the prohibition of parachlorobenzyl trifluoride, PCBTF, and tertiary butyl acetate, TBAC. Next slide, please. So with respect to those two compounds, a lot of manufacturers utilize these materials to meet our stringent VOC limits. Back in 2017, the stationary source asked us to look into the toxicity of this. The Office of Environmental Health Hazardous Assessment, OEHA, came back and determined that these two materials were carcinogenic, and that started a process for us to begin phasing out these materials across many, many rules, and this is just one of those efforts. Next slide, please. So 7 of the coding categories in Rule 1107 do rely on PCBTF, and we are establishing timelines here in this table for when they be phased out. We work closely with the manufacturers of these coatings to come up with these timelines. For the categories where there really isn't any PCBTF or TBAC, there's a very short time frame for the removal of that. So in December of next year, there'll be stop manufacturing, and then there'll be another year later for a sell-through, and then finally use through. But for these categories where they are being utilized, there is a need for reformulation. This reformulation process also includes extensive testing to make sure that the coatings perform as needed. And so for those categories, in the second column, second row, we'll be providing up to until 2030 for them to reformulate and test, and then 1 year sell-through and 1 year use-through. For the military coatings, at the top of that table, they do have special requirements for their testing because they need to be used in combat situations, and so we're allowing an additional year for that testing. Now, it is a reformulation process, and we are looking to come back later in 2029 to make sure that that reformulation process is going well and make adjustments as needed. Next slide, please. So there are some other minor changes to the rule. We are looking at clarifying if coatings are labeled as being utilized in multiple categories, that they have to meet the lowest limit. We are prohibiting some other compounds that generally are not used in coatings, but we're just making sure that they don't get introduced to those coatings. And then we're including some references for how labeling should be done on those coatings. There are no new record keeping or labeling requirements, just referencing existing requirements. Next slide, please. So as part of this effort, we're not expecting any significant adverse environmental impacts from doing this. We are doing this rule as a health protective rule to eliminate PCBTF and TBAC from these coatings. So notice exemption will be provided for through CEQA, excuse me. There are some reformulation costs, but we do expect some of those costs to be offset by the lower cost of some of the replacements. So there's not expected at this point to be a substantial price increase to these coatings. We'll have to see how that turns out because this is a reformulation process. Next slide, please. We did work closely, as I mentioned, with the coating manufacturers on this process. We don't have any key issues at the moment. However, we did receive a request lately, and that was to provide some of the information that we have in the staff report in a way that's more accessible to the people who might be making or using these coatings. And so we thought a good compromise to doing that would to be put it on our VOC webpage where it'll be accessible to people more easily. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Board members, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Wayne, you and I talked about it earlier. I just want to just make sure that we make a mention of it so that everybody's on the same page, and this goes back to the thin layer of the coating, the thin film coating formulation, which we don't have an approved test method. And so because of that, it makes it very confusing for the business owner to not know what we will be testing or how we will be testing when we do go to their site. So it's a guessing game for them. And it's very unfair and it gives them angst. And so I know that you have some new solutions potentially to help with this so that when an inspector goes out there, they're not going to be reading staff's report. Instead, there's actual something in writing or somewhere somehow for both the business owners and our inspectors to align.
So with respect to our inspectors and our enforcement staff, we really don't have issues with being confused when we're out in the field. When there's a complicated issue, it's brought back and dealt with at the management level. And so we'll work closely with other divisions, with the lab, with source test engineers, with our legal department before taking action. So that's kind of on the back end. With respect to the front end, though, perhaps someone else, planning would like to comment on how they're going to present it.
You betcha. So what we're referring here is a test method that was never approved by EPA, and that's the reason why it's not under our rule. Otherwise, they would just approve our rule, and that'd be problematic for us. However, we have given some allowances with that test method. We do believe that test method does serve a good function for those manufacturers to be able to identify what the VOC content is, and more importantly, get it onto their label. And that was part of the reference that Mike had made, and we do think that's an important message to get out. I think the comment to have that accessible on the website. And it's beyond even like a guidance document, not just for the metal coatings, but for all the coatings that are out there that are challenged with the testing of those thin film coatings. Otherwise, they do come in, as Terrence had noted, when it comes to a compliance situation, and they can work with our lab on that.
So in other words, we're going to put it on the website so that it's out there so everybody knows what we're looking for and what would be helpful for whoever's looking at it, right?
That's correct. It puts everyone on the same playing field, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're a user, or even our inspectors.
Perfect. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yeah, really quickly, just on your timeline slide where you had all other categories. So when the inspectors go out, how do you specify all other categories? I mean, what would the company know to look for?
So when they're utilizing the coatings, they'll understand how they're using them and what category applies to them. Most of the categories are general, one component, or general, two component. The other categories that you see listed here are specialty uses. So for the most part, they'll know if they're in one of those two initial categories or if they're using a specialty coating, which applies to that. Most people aren't really all that familiar with whether or not their coatings have PCBTF in that or not. So that's why the rule effort really focused on dealing with the manufacturers.
That makes sense. I have no idea. Yeah, so. Okay, any other questions? I'm going to open up the public hearing. We have one speaker here, Rita Loof, who's signed up.
Rita Loof, Director of Environmental Affairs for Radtech International. We just had Thanksgiving not too long ago, so I thought I would focus on the things I am thankful for in Rule 1107. I'm thankful that the rule did not come to the board in a bundle with another rule, which would have made the process more complex. I am thankful that the rule does not have excessive record-keeping requirements. I am thankful that there is clarification regarding the test method in the staff report and that staff plans to provide additional information regarding the test method on the website. And I am grateful for the Rule 1107 team who took the time to actively listen to our concerns. I want to clarify our materials do not have TBAC or PCBTF. So we think we can live with the accommodations that staff has made, but we still face the fact that EPA has not approved a method. Moving forward, we hope the district can partner with us as we seek EPA approval of ASTM D7767. We think a locally driven and collaborative approach towards policies that reduce air and climate pollution is the type of consensus that should be supported and encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. This is a public hearing, so you don't need to sign up. If you would like to speak for or against this item, you're welcome to come up now. And don't see anybody, so we'll go to online.
Online, Madam Chair, we have one speaker, is Bill Quinn. Bill, go ahead, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Bill Quinn, and I am with CEEB, the California Council for Environmental and Economic Balance. I'm here today to support proposed amended Rule 1107. This rule is one of many to to phase out the use of two carcinogens, PCBTF and TBAC. CEEB supports and understands the need to phase out the use of these materials. I want to thank staff for working with us to identify products that will need reformulations. For these products, additional time will be needed to complete the phase out. Key here was for staff to work with the manufacturers, but also the end users. We are pleased that staff has also incorporated into your resolution the need to do a technology review to make sure that there is an acceptable replacement products and to extend the time if there are some problems with these replacement products. We are pleased that we encourage staff actually to follow this format for the series of upcoming rules that will need amendments to phase out these materials. So thank you very much. Again, we support the proposal.
Thanks, Bill. That completes public comment online.
Supervisor Hagman. Okay, so let me close public hearing. It's a motion to move the item, and it's been seconded. All right, let's lock in our votes. All right, thank you so much for that. Our second public hearing is presented by Kalam. Did I say that correctly?
You pronounced it perfectly. Thank
Okay.
you. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. Kalam Chung here, Planning and Rules Manager. Next slide. Rule 1469 regulates emissions of a toxic compound, hexavalent chromium, from chrome plating and anodizing. The picture on the right shows a typical chrome plating tank where it contains a bath of chemical solution. And when the chemical solution contains hexchrome, then toxic air emissions could be formed. Currently, there is a total of 72 facilities in South Coast AQMD. 30 of them perform decorative chrome plating. And as the name implies, they're done to make the surface, the part, prettier, shinier, to give it a specific color. And they're mostly done on automotive parts as well as bathroom fixtures. The remaining 42 facilities are functional plating facilities, and functional plating are done to improve the functional properties of the parts to make it stronger, sturdier, harder, and they're mostly used in the aerospace and military applications. And because hexchrome is such a potent carcinogen, they're being regulated on federal, state, and local levels. Locally, we have Rule 1469 in place. And typically, South Coast AQMD rules are at least as stringent as the state or federal regulations. However, in 2023, our sister agency, ARB, they have amended their state regulation, which is the Chrome ATCM, the Chrome Air Toxic Control Measure. And because of that, they have included more stringent requirements, including a phase-out requirements. And beginning 2026, the Chrome ATCM, the state regulation, will be more stringent than Rule 1469. Under state law, local rules needs to be at least as stringent as the state ATCM. And because of that, that's why we're here today to amend Rule 1469 to align with the more stringent Chrome ATCM. I'm on slide number 4 here, and this slide summarizes the key proposed amendments. The state ATCM has included a phase-out requirement. They're phasing out the use of hexchrome for this industry. And for decorative plating, the phase-out date is year 2030. For functional chrome plating, the phase-out date is 2039. And this phase-out date is contingent upon 2 technology reviews to be conducted by ARB. In addition, the state ATCM has also included more stringent requirements for source testing, as well as a lower emission limit for functional chrome plating facilities. State ATCM has also enhanced the storage requirement for hex chrome containing waste. And proposed amended Rule 1469, it has included new provisions to incorporate these more stringent requirements. A little bit more on the phase out of hex chrome. Back in 2023, when ARB amended the state ATCM, they're expecting facilities to transition away from the use of hex chrome to cleaner technologies, such as trivalent chromium. And the state has also approved $10 million to help industry with the transition. And currently, the incentive program is active. They're accepting applications. So businesses, operators who are interested in transitioning to cleaner technologies, they could submit their applications now. In terms of the public process, in addition to working group meetings and a public workshop, we have also sent out 2 regulatory advisories. These advisories are notifications that are sent to operators to let them know that our plan was to amend Rule 1469 to align with the state regulation, and also to remind them about the upcoming compliance deadlines. Throughout the public process, we've worked very closely with stakeholders and resolved many issues, and there's one key remaining issue. This proposal requires facilities to submit permit applications for functional chrome plating facilities that are subject to the lower emission limit. Stakeholders commented that this action is not necessary and they're concerned about the cost impacts. As a reminder, this functional chrome plating facility, they're subject to a longer phase-out timeline, at least until 2039. And the state law requires this proposal to align with the more stringent ATCM. So a permit modification is needed to align the permit conditions with the state regulation. And on top, an engineering evaluation is needed to verify that these facilities comply with the lower stringent emission limit. It is estimated that the permit application fee will be on average about $16,500 per facility, and that will be a one-time cost. This slide summarizes the impact assessment. Back in 2023, when ARB amended the state regulation, they have already analyzed the cost impacts as well as the environmental impacts associated with the state amendment. But we do have more refined information on permit application fees and waste storage requirements, the cost related to them. So for transparency, we have dived in and do an analysis. And the average annual cost for these 2 requirements is about $1,100, $11,000, and that is on a 4% interest rate. In terms of CEQA, again, the state has already analyzed the environmental impacts, so we have prepared a notice of exemption for this proposal. With that, staff is recommending the board to adopt a resolution determining that proposed amended Rule 1469 is exempt from the requirements of CEQA and to amend Rule 1469. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Board members, questions? Supervisor Hagman, is that?
Yeah, just a quick one. Since we had such a limited amount of manufacturers, is like 150 or less, it looks like the combined areas. On the outreach, did we specifically notify each one so at least they're aware of this?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, on part of the public process, we're reaching out. We've included all the impacted facilities into our reach out. We email them. And then also on the regulatory advisory, in addition to email, we also send out a snail mail, a physical mail to them. And so I think
on such a small field, that makes a lot of sense. And what I always try to avoid is as we start to move the regulations on certain industries, I don't want to have the move out of the state and all of a sudden we're trucking it back in and actually have more problems than we did just keeping them here and fixing them. So thank you for that notification.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yeah, can I just make a recommendation too? I know that we're reaching out to the businesses, but maybe also include the city managers. If this is coming that way, they can also have conversations with companies that are having hex chromium.
Thank you for the recommendation.
All right. I'm going to open up the public hearing. You do not need to sign up. You can come up to speak for or against this item if interested at this time? I think we have a hand raised online, so we'll go to that while people are contemplating their comments.
Madam Chair, we have one hand raised. It's Harvey Etter. Harvey, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Harvey Etter. I'm talking for myself from the Public Solar Power Coalition. We knew a guy that had a metal plating factory, David Shine, in Eastville, in LA. We did solar on apartment house for him, and he was interested in the technology and in this plant. So I want to make sure that solar is looked at wherever it could be used for these things. Also, we're against CEQA exemption. There's a big move to purge CEQA in the national and state government. I don't think we know what we're doing, especially at a time we've got to evaluate stuff and know about natural laws and the environment. You know, the laws of
Thank you for
nature.
your comments, but this is moved beyond this item. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing.
Agri moves.
Whoa, missed it. Did you catch that? Okay, somebody moved, somebody second, and we're gonna vote. All right, that item passes, and we're down to our last public hearing. And this will be presented by Scott.
So my name is Scott Epstein. I'm a planning and rules manager, and I'm here to talk about our AB 2588 or Air Toxics Hotspots Program annual report. Okay, so this annual report summarizes the programs that we've implemented in 2024 under our AB 2588 program. There's actually a state law to bring this to a public hearing. So I like being here, but that's the main reason why we're here to present this report. So the report highlights not only activities that we did under the 2588 program, but it kind of summarizes at a high level some other activities to control air toxics in other programs. We also talk about future activities in the AB 2588 program, and then present some updates to our guidance documents, which I'll talk about a little later. Next slide. Okay, so what are kind of the general goals and objectives of the AB 2588 program? So we collect emissions data on air toxics from hundreds of facilities throughout our region. With that data, we identify facilities that could potentially have localized impacts in their surrounding community. For those facilities, we require health risk assessments that are thoroughly vetted and approved by staff. Depending on the results of those health risk assessments, we may require public notification or the reduction of risks. So this is all under our Rule 1402. And just to be clear, AB 2588 is a major part of our approach to air toxics, but it's just one part of how we reduce air toxics emissions. Okay, so currently we have 476 what we call core facilities. So these are the large facilities that are within our AB 2588 program. And that number can change by the day. Facilities can exempt out, new facilities can be brought in. The annual report, so of these 476 facilities, we split them into 4 different groups, and we take a really close dive at one of those groups each year. So every 4 years, it's a quadrennial review process. So in 2024, we took a close look and audited emissions from the facilities in phase 1A. So essentially, they reported their 2023 emissions. We got those emissions in early 2024, and then spent the year taking a really close dive and look at their emissions, and then determining if those emissions could potentially cause offsite impacts to see if further actions are needed. Next slide. Okay, so in 2024, we looked at 118 quadrennial reports. So that was, I was saying, every 4th year. We looked at 118 emission reports. That includes reported emissions of 183 different air toxic contaminants. From those emissions, we calculate what's called a priority score. So we apply this screening model to determine how concerned should we be about these emissions. And essentially, do we expect to see offsite impacts from those emissions? The highest priority facilities have priority scores above 10. For those facilities, we then require an air toxics inventory report. So these are these really comprehensive reports. They quantify all the emissions of 500 different air toxics that come from the facility. They often can take a while. There's a lot of effort back and forth with the facility. Oftentimes they have to do source testing. There aren't pre-established emission factors. They have to go and measure the emissions from their devices. That all gets vetted and approved as well. So then once we have this air toxics inventory report, we spend a lot of time vetting and approving the report. We use this screening model to recalculate their priority score because we really have the emissions dialed in to determine, once again, if we think there are offsite impacts. The answer is yes, we require a health risk assessment. Facilities take those emissions, they use computer modeling, and then estimate concentrations in the community and convert that into risk. So you can estimate risk in the community, cancer risk and non-cancer health risk. So in 2024, 2 facilities were required to submit health risk assessments. We once again thoroughly vet them. Actually, OEHA also vets them. And then based on the results, the risk results of these health risk assessments, further actions may be needed. So if the facilities exceed our public notice thresholds, they're required to conduct public notice. We help facilitate that with a public meeting and letters to all affected residents and businesses. If their risks are above an even higher threshold, they're required to do risk reduction. And they have to do that through a risk reduction plan. So in 2024, 2 facilities had to conduct public notification, and also a risk reduction plan was also required at 2 facilities. Okay, so I talked a lot about what we call our traditional approach, where for facilities with these high priority scores, they have to do air toxics inventory report, health risk assessment, public notification, and risk reduction if needed. But there are 2 other pathways I wanted to talk about briefly. So we have this voluntary risk reduction program. So these are for facilities with high priority scores and with a past approved HRA. So since we're evaluating these facilities every 4 years, it's possible that they've gone through this process years ago. So if they have that past approved HRA, they can actually do some voluntary efforts to reduce their risk immediately, right up front. That gets that done really quickly. It also requires risk reductions that are greater than what we get with this traditional approach. Then they go on and calculate their emission inventory sort of before and after those actions, then health risk assessment, and then what we call modified public notification. And then the last row are our potentially high-risk level facilities. So these are our most toxic facilities. So these are facilities which, say, monitoring data or other factors indicate that their cancer risk could be greater than 100 excess cancers per million people, or their non-cancer hazard index could be greater than 5. These facilities are required to do an early action reduction plan to do what they can to reduce risk immediately. Then they do an air toxics inventory report and a health risk assessment. If the health risk assessment still shows that they're above thresholds, they would then have to do public notification and a risk reduction plan. Next slide. Okay, so in 2024, a lot of our work is reviewing these documents that are submitted by facilities. So we did a total of 143 reviews involving 134 different facilities. 139 of these reviews were through this traditional 2588 pathway, 10 HEIRs, 10 health risk assessments, 1 risk reduction plan. 2 of the reviews were in the voluntary risk reduction program, and 2 were in the potentially high risk level facilities. Okay, so I mentioned we're going to just very at a high level kind of summarize some other key toxics related activities in 2024. Outside the 2588 program. So there was definitely some rulemaking that went on. So I'm just highlighting here, Rule 1469, getting compliance with the corresponding CARB air toxic control measure, and then Rule 1151 to phase out those two compounds that Mike was talking about, PCBTF and TBAC, from mobile equipment coating operations. There's also been a lot of special monitoring for ethylene oxide at our sterilization facilities. A lot of air toxics monitoring in our EJ communities as part of the AB 617 program. We also reviewed, so EPA has this model called Air Tox Screen, where they take a lot of emissions data from state and local agencies, put it in a national model to identify areas that have high risk from air toxics. So we participate a lot in that. So we review their model and their emissions data. They finalized the release of their 2020 model. And then also we initiated MATE 6. So MATE 6, that monitoring and modeling is ongoing as we speak. Okay, so what's kind of up ahead in the next year? So we've been spending a lot of time addressing risk at fumigation facilities through AB 2588. We will continue to do that. We'll continue to coordinate with CARB and CAPCOA on our 2588 guideline updates, our criteria pollutant toxic emissions reporting amendments, so that's done at the state level, and then reviews of new chemicals. We'll continue to support CARB in updating their health risk assessment guidance for industry-wide sources. So these are sources where there are kind of smaller businesses, where there are many of them that aren't necessarily treated on an individual level. Continue to work with CARB and EPA on Air Tox Screen, and then continue monitoring the risk reduction process for our ethylene oxide sterilization facilities. Okay, there is a lot of expected rule development activities. Some rules are in the process, are proposed rules or new rules like 1435 and 1495, and then also proposed amended rules 1469 and 1420.2. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we also have a lot of guidelines on our website to help to kind of make everything transparent, but also help facilities comply with 2588, make our job easier when we review their documents. So we have these supplemental guidelines. So we updated them to provide some additional clarity to make things more consistent with other documents. We added some clarity to more clearly distinguish the tiers that we use in 2588 versus the tiers in 1401, which is the health risk assessments for permitting, and then added an additional checklist to ensure more accurate submissions. We also have guidelines on our prioritization procedures. So this is kind of how we calculate those priority scores, that screening level model. So we added new meteorological factors for that, updated our multi-pathway factors, and then added additional clarification. And then we updated our public notification procedures. So when a facility is required to do public notification, there's a whole set of procedures that they follow and we follow. We removed this hard copy requirement for the health risk assessment, and then added some clarity on what constitutes a trade secret. So things that they can redact from their health risk assessment. And then updated our language for our public notification letters in our templates. Okay, so that's my presentation. So we recommend that the board receives and files our annual report and also approve updates to the guidance documents that I spoke about. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, questions? All right. I'll open up the public hearing for other comments. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Board member Padilla Campos.
Thank you for the presentation. I had a couple questions on the HRA.
Sure.
How long does a typical HRA take to complete from start to finish?
So it very much depends on the HRA. So there's a 90-day requirement for the facility to submit their first draft of the HRA. But often there's a lot of back and forth between us. We review, there's a lot of back and forth. And then there's an additional timeline that we can control where OEHA has to approve the HRAs. So it varies a lot depending on facility and also complexity of the facility.
But less than a year, maybe?
Not necessarily.
No?
I don't think
It could vary, huh?
it'd be an unusual one.
Really?
Yeah.
So almost like an EIR. Does it take a long time?
I haven't had much experience with EIRs, but is that?
Yeah, I think so. It's like the health risk equivalent, but like the one in Pacoima took like a decade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fortunately they don't take that long for the HRAs, but it's pretty routine that they take longer than a year to
Okay.
kind of go through the entire process.
Then I can appreciate also the requirement of not submitting a hard copy, but do you have a digital library that does exist and can be accessible?
Yeah, so that's all
Okay.
available on our webpage. Yep. Yeah, AQMD.gov/AB2588.
Okay, and then there's a note there about making it more accurate submission. What does that mean? You ask for more specific questions, or what is that process?
Yeah, so generally, there's a lot of science that goes into the HRA, and that's our top priority, is to ensure the best science to get the most accurate risk numbers. So we're always updating sort of our recommendations for their modeling procedures, how you model certain processes to ensure the best science.
Got it. Thank you. I appreciate the presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Anybody who would like to speak, you do not need to sign up. You can come to the microphone. We do have one online speaker, so we'll go to that first.
Harvey Eder. Harvey, you've got a minute and a half. Go ahead, Harvey.
No, being heard, yes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Harvey Eder, founder and director of Public Solar Power Coalition, speaking for myself and for them, etc. We attended the last experts meeting for MATES to set up how to do things. We brought up about asbestos, and we heard that we were like 40,000 deaths a year from some brake lining. They hadn't studied it. They wanted to get a progress report on that. Also, recently we found out that there's a million deaths a year, 980,000.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Eder, but we can move beyond this item. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing. Supervisor Hagman.
Move the item.
Second.
All right, it's been moved second. Let's lock in our votes. All right, that item passes. Thank you so much for your work on this. And I don't think we have a closed session today.
No, we do.
All right, well, happy holidays to everybody. Our last meeting of 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.